Also, Alekhya-san, the panelist, Mr. Dheeraj Pandey, Chirag Sharma, and Ashutosh Sharma, they are yet to join in. So you could quickly, follow up
Ramit
with
sir,
them.
yeah. Ramit sir, your video quality is good enough. If you could quickly introduce yourself so that we could see your audio quality as well.
So, hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Ramit Malhotra, Director with KPMG.
That's perfect, sir. Thank you. Also, I believe your presentation will be shared here.
Yeah, sure. Can you
Right.
check that?
So that Mr. Rishabh Sethi is going to do for you, sir.
So, sir, what we have discussed, maybe till the market outlook you will present, and from the application side, then I'll pitch into, and then Rahul will cover the valuation part and finish the presentation.
Mr. Chirag from Drone Destination has joined. So can you move him to the panelist?
Dheeraj sir, you are on mute.
Good morning, Mr. Sharma. This is Dheeraj from NIDO. So this will be a tech check by our team. Prateek will assist you.
Hi, good morning all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, very much. You are clearly audible and your video quality is also good enough.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So do you also have any presentation to share?
I'll be speaking. I mean, on the topics that have been shared. Yeah.
All right. Noted. Thank you. Five minutes to going live.
Oh. Ashutosh Sharma has also joined in. I am promoting my panel. Yes, please. You can. Morning, sir. Mr. Ashutosh Sharma. This is Dheeraj from NIDO.
Good morning, Dheeraj ji.
Morning. Prateek ji will do a quick tech check with you.
Okay.
Good morning, sir. I am from the technical team.
Good morning.
So your video quality is good. Only a little advice if you could have a little face light on yourself so that we could see better of your video quality.
I will do that.
And your audio quality is good enough. So will you be having any presentation to share?
I'm not very sure if it is needed. I can do that, but I understand I'm a part of a panel. So I'm not very sure what is the format, if it is a discussion or if it is a presentation that is supposed to be made.
Yes, thank you. Ashutosh-san, good morning. It's up to
Hey,
you.
good morning, Kaku-san.
Yes, it's up to you, whether you are using the PPT or not.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if you'd like to share, please have a testing done now itself so that we could, be sure on your sharing rights.
Sure. Let's just try.
Meanwhile, Alekhya-san, from the panel, we are just waiting for Mr. Dheeraj Pandey.
Yeah, he will be joining.
Okay.
Is my slide visible? Dheeraj ji?
Yes, sir. Very much.
Okay,
You
perfect.
can
then.
make it a full screen if you want.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Sure,
But if it is
sure.
visible, it is good.
It is visible very much.
Okay.
One minute to going live. Dheeraj sir, I would just request, are we settled with all the panelists to start with?
We are waiting for one more panelist, Mr. Dheeraj Pandey. He is from ASSOCHAM, but I cannot see in the attendees. Can you also have a look in the list of attendees that you have joined already? And if he's there, you can promote to the panel.
No, sir, he's not there.
He is not there. So even if we start, we'll start the webinar as per the time. And if he joins in, can you please have a look?
Absolutely, sir. I'll do that.
Chirag Sharma.
He is here. Mr. Sharma is here. So the moment clock does 11:30, we can start. You can give a go ahead to Mr. Jodhbir and he will start.
So we can go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live now.
Hi, good morning to everyone in India and a very good afternoon to everyone in Japan. A very warm welcome today to a very exciting topic that we have for today, that is drones. Over the last few years, we have seen drones becoming part of the daily discussion for almost everyone, right? The usage, the drone use cases, they have spanned across multiple sectors, starting from defense, infrastructure, security, healthcare, agriculture, and many more. And with the research which is going on, it's a matter of time before drones are also used to move passengers and cargo, with VTOLs coming in play. While it may seem that there is a lot of work which has happened on drones, right, and it has grown exponentially, we are just at the cusp of a revolution for drone. It is said that over the decade and so, drones will become as omnipresent and as ubiquitous as we have mobiles in our daily lives these days, right? With the large population in India, a growing economy, the potential for drones in India is immense. And that also essentially implies that there is a lot of opportunities which are there for both from drone services as well as manufacturing of drones. While we look at the traditional aviation sector, the supply chains for which have been set up decades back, drone as a new emerging sector, still has the potential of developing collaboration across countries, building those supply chains, and thus provides multiple opportunities across manufacturing, across services, across deployment of drones. And with that intent in mind, we have gathered here today to have a discussion around the opportunities around drones and also get insights from some of the very esteemed panelists during the panel discussion. We would like to thank NEDO for sponsoring this study and giving us an opportunity to speak around the potential of drone. And with that, I would request and invite Mr. Yoshiri Kako, the Chief Representative of NEDO in India, to give an introduction around NEDO and give an outline of the webinar. Mr. Yoshiri Kako.
Thank you for introduction, Jodhbir-san. Good morning, namaskar, and konnichiwa. Distinguished guest speakers, the delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I am Yoshiro Kaku, the Chief Representative of the New Delhi office. I am extremely happy to make opening remarks in this webinar on the capturing opportunities in the booming drone ecosystem in India, with support from KPMG India. Also, I'm quite excited to listen to today's discussion because I was in charge of the policy making in the drone field in Japan. As an outset, I'd like to introduce about NEDO. NEDO is a governmental agency under the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, METI, Government of Japan. The main objective of NEDO is simply accelerating the technological innovation. NEDO can supply funding with R&D and demonstration projects. The NEDO Delhi office is looking after NEDO's activities in the South Asia and the Middle East. In India, NEDO has implemented various demonstration projects in the field of renewable energy, energy storage, green telecom towers, green hospitals, smart community, and energy efficiency in the steel and the cement plants. This fiscal year, we commissioned KPMG India to conduct a broad survey on the topic, such as drone market and players in India, as well as regulatory trends. We discussed the outcome of the report, and in this webinar, we intend to bring stakeholders in the drone fields in India and Japan to come together and deliberate about the current status and the future growth in this market. India has a big potential in the drone markets because India's regulation was eased drastically in 2021. There are also the introduction and the promotion of the digital scale platform is very interesting. The government of India has promoted making India in drone field as well by the PLR scheme. India has hundreds of drone startup companies so far. In addition to the prior points I have mentioned above, I believe that the collaboration between India and Japan will become increasingly important in promoting business and innovation and the partnership in field of drones. For example, the SSL, one of today's speakers, and Japan's leading drone manufacturers, has already expanded their business in India. In addition, last year, the MOU that was signed between the Drone Federation of India, DFI, and the Fukushima robot test field. I would be very happy if you could deepen your interest in India based on today's information. I'm looking forward for informative and participative webinar. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yoshiri Kaku, for the introduction around NEDO as well as the opportunity around drones. And we are thankful for NEDO for sponsoring this study. Like you mentioned, there is a detailed assessment which KPMG India has undertaken around the potential of drones, as well as the regulatory framework and the use cases which emerge. For that, I'll request Mr. Amit Malhotra, who's the director with KPMG, to start with the presentation. Ramit?
Yeah, maybe Rishabh, if you'd like to share the screen. Ramesh, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Jodhbir. Thank you, Kaku-san. So very briefly, we'll be discussing about the drone ecosystem in India, which includes on the global market overview, the Indian market overview, what are the key policy trends in India, what are the industry trends, how the value chain is emerging in India, what new age technologies are being tested and tried, and then based on the findings of stakeholder consultation, very briefly, we'll be talking about the tester analysis of Indian drone ecosystem. According to drone rules, drone has been defined as an aircraft that can operate autonomously or can be remotely operated. There are different types or categorization of drones based on the weight of drone, the wing type, the power source being used by drones, the range which they can cover, and the size of drone. So, for example, in terms of weight, there are different categories and subcategories. There are nano drones, micro drones, small and medium and large drones. Similarly, single rotor, fixed wing, multiple rotor, battery operated drones, drones operated by gasoline, there are solar power, and nowadays we are also talking about hydrogen power drones. And similarly, depending on the type of drone, there are different range which they can cover. Very close range, which is about 5 kilometers, then close range, which is 55 kilometers, then short range, which is about 150 kilometers, and mid range, and similarly the long range. Next, please. In terms of global market outlook, at present, the market is around $6 to $7 billion, which is expected to reach around $47 to $50 billion in next 7 to 8 years, witnessing a compounded annual growth rate of around 28.5%. And AI-enabled drone system is going to dominate the market. Next slide. In terms of the spread across regions, it's quite evenly spread. Around 40% drone market is witnessed in North America, followed by the Asia Pacific region, Europe, and Latin America. In terms of market outlooks based on product, the rotary blade kind of drone system dominates the market with 80% share. Majorly, in terms of end user applications, the drone are being used in media and entertainment, real estate, construction, and energy sector. There are some applications in agriculture, logistics, law enforcement, which are taking place nowadays. Next, please. If you look at the Indian market, at present it's around $0.35 billion, which is expected to reach around $36 billion by 2030, witnessing a compound annual growth rate of 80% in the 5 years and 35% in the coming years. What are the favorable conditions or growth drivers are basically government policies and regulation, which include drone rules, drone import policy, and PLI scheme, which Kaku-san just mentioned about. Rising demand from various end-use applications, which are also being promoted by the center as well as state government agencies, and increasing investment and number of startups which are now operating in this. In terms of what are the key challenges we are going to witness to see this growth, this will include underdeveloped drone manufacturing and R&D and testing sites in India, and less sophisticated technical know-how and the skill set which will be required to meet the growing demand of drones in India. In terms of the technology trends which we are witnessing in manufacturing, there are alternative power sources which are being explored for operating drone system. There are technologies to extend the flight time and range of drones, superior positioning and navigation systems, hybrid technology, and enhanced payload are being tested. In terms of application, there are different new applications which are tested across the globe and including in India, which include edge and fog computing integration with the other technology and autonomous drones. Next, please. Now, why these drones are being adopted? Why the market is expected to grow in time? Because the drone applications of drone provide multiple advantages, which includes cost reduction, measurement through precision and accuracy, enhanced quality of monitoring, flexibility and agility, and easy accessibility. In terms of cost reduction, drone often provide convenient and affordable way to acquire aerial photos with high quality geospatial data. In terms of accuracy, these drones can be programmed and accurately steered to specific areas since their software integrate with GPS. In terms of quality, drones can capture amazing aerial photographs and aerial films and gather huge amount of data, which can be used for data analytics and generating useful information for monitoring the site conditions. In terms of agility, drones have wider range of motion, fly lower in all directions, and are adept to navigating. drone control technology enables users to swiftly deploy and control drones, even with only a very basic understanding of the technology. And in terms of accessibility, drones make it very simple to collect effective data from difficult region as well. Next, please. Adoption of drones in are increasingly become important in Government of India schemes. So be it strengthening the defense sector or promotion of drone shakti, drone melas, kisan drone applications in agriculture, survey of infrastructure project, Swamitwa scheme, and fight against COVID-19. In all the major government schemes which are being implemented by Government of India, the applications of drones are being encouraged by DRDO, by various agencies involved in implementation of these schemes. Indian Railways, Coal India Limited, National Highway Authority of India, Health Department, and so forth. Now, I would like to invite my colleague Ankit Datta to take over and present the remaining part of the slide.
Thanks, Ramit. Rishabh, if you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so as Ramit talked about, some of the initiatives that the Government of India schemes, of course, we'll cover the policies at the national level as well as the state level initiatives in the subsequent slides. But before that, we'd like to highlight some of the key applications that are being used in India. We try to identify some of the use cases from different sector for the drone application. So for an example, defense, there are startups, of course, a company called Sagar Defense based in Pune. They recently developed unmanned vehicle called Varuna for the defense application. They recently launched this prototype. Similarly, for the energy and power, there are a lot of applications of drones that has been utilized by different state entities. So Maharashtra State Electricity Board, which is basically the Maharashtra Transmission Company, so they're basically also using the drones to surveillance the transmission network, basically to see the outage or any fault in the transmission line. Next slide, please, Rishabh. And in the applications like mining, as Ramit has also mentioned, like the company like Coal India, they are exclusively using these drones in various monitoring applications and in the mining ecosystem. Even they have also developed a kind of a portal, the online portal where the real-time transmission of the footage that has been captured through drone in various forms. As the new, the notification from Supreme Court, if you see the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, they're also supposed to digitize the land property and basically, for for prevention of the encroachment of the in the government-owned property or the misuse of any residential property in the national highways and those corridors. So basically, they are also using the drones as one of the area to surveillance or to monitor this kind of activity. Next slide, please. If you see the for the agricultural sector, there are wide scope of opportunities that is there. And very recently, DFI, the Drone Federation of India, also hosted a larger event on the agricultural applications of drones. Of course, some of us have also attended, and there are huge, interest from different companies or the startups, as well as on the agricultural fraternity and from the ministry side as well. So, as also Ramit mentioned, like in one of the schemes that Government of India is implementing for the agricultural sector. So there also one of the major focus was given on the agricultural drone applications. There are, if you see the policy and some amendment in the existing regulations, so a lot of, changes has been done to enable the drone application, particularly for the agricultural sector, particularly on the smaller size of the drones. Then on one of the use cases from the government of Maharashtra, from the forest department, they are also using drones to basically, monitor the tigers or the cheetahs there in the one of the national forest in MP. Next slide. Similarly, on the healthcare side, there are new initiatives. We have also seen very recently AIIMS in Uttarakhand. They have also delivered medicines for the TB in some remote areas through drone. That is also been highlighted in some of the latest news articles, if you see. Similarly, for state government of Arunachal Pradesh, they are also try to initiate. They have also taken an initiative called medicines from the sky. So where unreached areas, the hilly areas or in the northeast or the remotest area in the northeast, how drone can be used to supply the emergency medicines to the villagers or to the consumers. Similarly, also like in case of the information and broadcasting, like when we have the complete lockdown during the COVID, so then also some of the media houses are allowed to capture, since it was a lockdown, so basically try to monitor like whether people are basically following the guidelines as laid by the Ministry of Health and Welfare. So basically, just to assess where all the lockdown has been taking place and whether people are following that the norms as set by the state governments. So drones have also used that time to monitor the kind of activities. Next slide, please. Similarly, for the railway sector, of course, we have already mentioned, like in the Indian Railways, they're heavily utilizing this drone in their, the infrastructural development projects. Basically, on real-time tracking, of their infrastructure. So they're also extensively using these applications. Similarly, the national highways, basically to see the construction work and monitoring activity in the national highways. Next slide, Rishabh. So this is, try to cover very briefly how this drone market has been evolving in India. So if you see very, before 2014, the drone was completely banned in the country. But, if you see when the new government are there, post 2014, then the liberalization start taking place, because this is also one of the emerging area of what government of India level the people used to feel. And of course the PM was one of the key motivator towards this kind of applications. So you see in 2018 the Civil Aviation Regulations 1.0 has been notified. 2019 then a drone policy roadmap has been formulated. In September 2021 the drone aerospace map was there. And then National Unmanned Aircraft Traffic Management System, that policy has been also notified by Ministry of Civil Aviation. So basically, and of course, in August 2021, we all know the drone rules that has been issued by DGCA through Ministry of Civil Aviation. So that basically talks about, a lot of potential for drone in Indian market. There are many sectors or the applications that have been identified. And of course, subsequently, there are changes in the existing regulations. If you can see in Jan 2022, and in Feb also in Feb 2022, there is some amendment in the policy, basically to having received different comments from all stakeholders. There are a lot of relaxation has been provided in the subsequent regulations. Next slide, Vishal. To support, as I mentioned, like how in these three buckets we basically the initiatives from the government of India or level has been promoted. So one is through different policies or changes in the regulation, how the ecosystem been liberalized, and then the PLI scheme and how government of India is promoting the manufacturing of the local manufacturing of the drones. Because my colleague Rahul will also present what is the current status in the ecosystem, because we are more on import dependent at this moment. But of course, we are expecting through this PLI scheme that has been announced by government of India, localization of the drone components can also be possible, and there is a huge opportunity in the sector as well. Of course, similarly, then there are many sectors of as I mentioned in some of the use cases, a lot of potential from the drone technology as such. Next, Bishop. So similarly, to support the government of India initiatives or the policies, there have been several states has also, feel the requirements of drone or the kind of unmanned vehicles applications in their sector. So if you see some of the state like Himachal Pradesh, Gujarat, Goa, West Bengal, Haryana, they have already notified the drone policy at the state level. There are certain states, comes up with, even on the manufacturing or the investment opportunities like in Karnataka, they have also prepared a roadmap on that. So there are, as I mentioned, like on the state level, there are several initiatives has been taken. In some of the states, like, they have formed up a company like in AP. If you see, there is a corporation called AP Drone Corporation. They basically manages the all drone related activities there within the state. Tamil Nadu is also having the similar the organization setup. If you see in Tripura, of course, there are, the dedicated drone technology center that has been established in Tripura Institute of Technology. So there are several, at the state level also, there are several initiatives that has been there. Of course, we capture the detailed information that could be shared once we release our study, the report on the same. Next, Rishabh. So maybe from here, I would request my colleague, Mr. Rahul, to take up and maybe complete the presentation. Thank you so much. Rahul, please.
Thank you so much, Alekhya. I think those were very interesting and important points. I will touch upon the value chain of drone and maybe also talk about a little bit about the components and how the industry is structured. So the entire value chain of drones, we studied the value chain where we realized that there are components, then OEM manufacturers and then assemblers of drones, and also physical infrastructure providers, and then navigation, which is one of the very important aspects of drone operations as the number of drone increases, and also the operators themselves who provide services such as photography, mapping, inspection. And then there are support services, for example, repair services, training, testing, and we expect that there is going to be a huge focus on this vertical as the sector matures. Last and the most important, we'll see in the subsequent slides, one of the most important aspects is also data management. So data management, where the data which is collected from application of drones, which is photography or the mapping of the sites which is done, there's huge amount of data which is processed. And as the sector is evolving, I think this also becomes one of the important aspect of the entire value chain. There are players in these areas, and we will see subsequently some of these areas are adequately covered. Some of these areas need probably more focus. So can we go to the next slide, please, Rishabh? Yeah, so talking about, I think Alekhya touched upon this, talking about different parts of the drones, we can see that most of these parts are currently imported. So therefore, the drone segment, the drone sector in India is heavily dependent on imported parts. And during our study, we realized most of this is imported from China. Considering that Government of India is focusing on Make in India and trying to reduce dependence on imports. And there is production linked incentive schemes, PLI incentives schemes. And there are some players and some companies which are shortlisted by Government of India to provide PLI incentive schemes. It is yet to, we have still not seen the level of maturity which government intends to achieve. So there is still a long way to go in that direction, I would say. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So considering different parts of the drones, we investigated a little deeper into it, and we realized that the most important part, for example, motors, which is high RPM motors, the motors alone constitute to roughly around 25% of the total manufacturing cost. And for all the different parts, if we bifurcate, if we segregate them into these 7 components classified as these 7, then we can say that top 2 motors and camera payloads itself comprises of approximately 40 to 50% of the total cost, whereas the top four, which also includes communication module and batteries, it constitutes to about 75%. The interesting point to note here is that the most important parts and the top ones like motors, there is a heavy dependence of these critical parts, dependence on imports. So as I said in my previous slide, while Indian government is trying to reduce the dependence, however, there is a stiff competition from China because China is apparently able to achieve that economies of scale because they are catering to a larger market, whereas the manufacturers in India, we understand the scale is smaller, so therefore the cost efficiency is still in comparison lower than China. Can we go to the next slide, please? So another important aspect of this value chain is we looked at manufacturing. We also saw that there is a lot of focus from government in terms of production linked incentive schemes. But when we studied the entire value chain in terms of the cost of drone application, so in most, this is generalized, so it may differ a little bit from industry to industry, but broadly we can say that data management is one of the highest cost in percentage terms when compared to all other aspects of drone applications such as manufacturing, the logistic, manpower. So one of the another important observation was that not just India, but globally, there's a lot of focus on manufacturing. And we also found out some statistic around it. More than 50% of the global investment is towards manufacturing side. Whereas now we are realizing that the service side and also the data management is becoming more complex and therefore resulting in higher cost. And we were talking to some of the industry players and they were telling us in some of the segments, in some of the applications, in some of the industries, the files which are received from drone application, each image, each video is so heavy that it requires that kind of servers and your backend system to process the data and also to store it. Therefore, the data management is, we believe, is the next large focus area for drone application. Can we go to the next slide, please? So in terms of VTOL, which is one of the specific use cases of drones, we also try to assess the infrastructure and we developed a broad framework to assess the infrastructure readiness for vertical takeoff and landing UAVs in India. And we understood that landing on takeoff sites, the charging infrastructure, airspace management, very important, communication infrastructure, maintenance, and regulatory framework. These 6 are the most crucial aspect of infrastructure assessment, and we have assessed the VTOL readiness. We'll see in the subsequent slides. Can we look at the next slide, please? So, there are challenges perceived for VTOLs, and as we saw in the previous slides, those 6 aspects of infrastructure, we would say still remains one of the key focus area. However, apart from that, we also noted that the constrained airspace is one of the major challenge in the future, in the coming future, for wider acceptance of VTOLs in India. Also, utilization and load factors. So currently, any mode of transportation, be it air transport, even road transport, there is a load factor and there is a utilization percentage which renders a business more viable. For example, in case of aircrafts, there is a certain load factor which is required, and most of the domestic carriers in India, they achieve a load factor higher than 70-80%, which makes the business more viable. In case of VTOLs, that remains unclear or a gray area, which we are yet to see. How will this business can be made more viable? Apart from that, as I mentioned earlier, infrastructure, which includes landing sites and charging stations, they are one of the challenges. And the last one is willingness to pay. So we are yet to see what is the what is the willingness to pay for VTOLs in India. And it is believed that this, in the initial stages, this can remain a challenge. Can we go to the next slide, please? Some of the use cases of VTOLs, we have observed very interesting that Varuna, I think Alekhya spoke about this. Varuna is one of the specific VTOL developed for application in the defense industry, and it can be operated remotely. It can carry one person, and also this is being deployed on predefined paths. The other use case that we have come across is Abhiyan, which is a two-seater air taxi, and this finds its application in multiple use cases such as paramedics, rescue missions, disaster management. And another VTOL that we have seen is Netra V4, which is a lightweight UAV, and this also has it also has VTOL capabilities, which is developed by Idea Forge. So these are some of the use cases that we have come across, which are commercially being now in a mature stage of deployment. Can we go to the next slide, please? So one of the questions I will come back to, 2 slides when we spoke about VTOLs. Before that, we were talking about data management. And one of the observations that we spoke about, that data management remains one of the challenges in terms of highest cost. So India is known as one of the IT hubs of the world. And even then we are facing this challenge of high cost of data management. So we tried to investigate that a little further, and we realized that there is lack of specialized technology in terms of specific platforms and applications which can be used for drones. So we believe there is still lack of specialized technology in India, at least. And that is why there is dependence on, for data management as well, there is dependence on other countries. Of course, there is limited size, at least now. So we foresee that as the market matures, there will be eventually larger buyers, and therefore we will have more players providing this as a service also. And infrastructure also remains a challenge, like data centers. Available skills, I would say there is the gap. Available skills, this can still be filled very fast. So one of the key takeaways from this study is data management is one of the focus area and for the players, and there is opportunity in this space, especially those who are in drones. Can we go to the next slide, please? We also try to study the drone testing facilities, and broadly we can say that there is the requirement of drone testing facilities. It needs a certain very specific infrastructure where avionics testing facility, indoor testing and outdoor testing, and safety and compliance related issues with respect to those testings are required. And we'll see in the next slide. Can we go to the next slide, please? So for India, we still understand that there are some prominent drone testing sites, for example, Marut drone testing site and Chalakiri drone testing site, and there is one by DRDO and one by HAL. But there is still challenge, and there are challenges in drone testing sites in India. One is, we understand when we interacted with the industry and when we did our research, we found out that there is still need for more funding, both from government or from private players, to develop this. And also there is infrastructure supporting the drone testing sites currently is in many cases is inadequate and needs further development. So current infrastructure available at drone testing sites, they do provide research and development facilities, wind tunnels, but we still feel that there is a lot of unaddressed areas, especially when it comes to drone testing. Can we come to the next slide, please? So we compared, we were curious as to if India needs certain areas where we need more focus on drone testing sites. So we looked at some of the developed countries like the USA, and we also looked at China, and we realized that they have many of their drone testing sites do have the right amount of focus, and especially in China, they do have the indoor and the outdoor testing areas, and also the connectivity is provided for these testing, which also is very important because especially out of sight drones, they need access to 5G connectivity or faster connectivity. Also charging stations, they have provided these infrastructure which enables and which helps the manufacturers and developers, especially in R&D, to develop new drones and test them. Can we come to the next slide, please? So having said that, in India, especially in defense, we know it is a very clear path which is laid by the government of India, and especially the Ministry of Defense, which has identified sites and which has also identified funds. And there is a plan to promote to develop these testing sites. And as you can see on the map on your right, there are numerous sites which are proposed in the western, in the southern region, and also a few in the northern and northeast region as well. So this is, we are yet to see how this development unfolds in the coming few years. Can we come to the next slide, please? So just summarizing the study, and I think this is also the last slide. We interacted with a lot of stakeholders in the industry. That includes the Ministry of Civil Aviation and also private players, and also some of the federations working in this space. And we will just summarize our consultation and our discussion with the stakeholders into these 5 aspects of PESTEL. So in political or in policy side, I can see that there is a push and support provided by government. We have seen some of the PLI schemes. Not just that, when we were talking to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, we were told that there is a drone act which they want to release, which probably will be released soon, and they're working on it. So that is on the policy side. On the economy side also, there's a huge potential, as we have discussed on different aspects, and in the different aspects of the value chain, we saw in the data management, there is scope for improvement or scope for efficiency improvement. Manufacturing, there are a lot of schemes. There is dependence on technology being imported today, but that is where the opportunity lies. In case of social and technology, again, I would say that there is a lot of development in terms of also in adapting the new trend or this new technology, and also with AI and ML, we expect that this will enhance the drone application. On the legal side, there are some challenges because earlier, as Alekhya mentioned, that before 2014, they were totally banned for commercial usage. Even today, we feel that there are restrictions and there are prior approvals required for drone applications, especially for commercial use. In case of environmental, we realize that some of the stakeholders did mention to us that, one is the alternate fuel sourcing. The other is, right now, it is still in the initial stages, but as it matures, we expect that there'll be a lot of drones, and it is still to be seen how end of life management of drones, or how scrapping the drones, the older obsolete drones, how will that evolve as a broader part of the infrastructure for drones. I think we have broadly covered all points, and this is, So thank you so much. And please feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much. Over to you, Jodhbir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramit, Alekhya, and Rahul, for this very insightful and informative presentation. It does highlight the immense potential that drones have across multiple sectors and the use cases that we have. And it's very comforting to see the push that the government is providing to the sector in terms of the right policy framework as well as support to startups and the I would say the incentives towards creating the whole ecosystem, right? It also highlights a very important point that while the sector has a huge potential, there is significant amount of dependency on imports across the supply chain and the drone value chain. And it does require a significant amount of collaboration, and it also brings out opportunities for that collaboration. And with that thought in mind, I would request now Mr. Kinsuk Hayakawa, who is the CFO of Autonomous Control Systems Laboratory, to highlight the case of the successful India-Japan collaboration in this space. Mr. Kinsuk Hayakawa.
Okay, thank you for introduction. I'm Kensuke Hayakawa, CFO at SSL. It's an honor to present here, and I'd like to introduce our activities in India, and I would like to also highlight some the key insights from our survey. So let me share screen first. Okay, so we are SSL. SSL is a Japanese drone manufacturing company. So the value chain the KPMG team mentioned, we are only focusing on the hardware manufacturing side. We are not providing the services. And, we are a technology-driven company, and out of about 70 or 80 employees, about 60% are engineers. And, uniquely, we have about 20 nationalities in our team. We are a Japanese company, but we are trying to be a global company targeting the global market, not only Japan. And our mission is liberate humanity through technology. So we are trying to replace non-value added work by implementing robotics technology such as drone. So we are developing that technology. And here is our application-specific drones we have. And on the top left one is Soten. It's an aerial small photo drone. This drone is unique in terms of data security, which is compliant to the data security standard. So which meets the demand for the data security. And this drone was developed developed with the support of the Japanese government, NEDO. NEDO supported the development of this project, and we developed this one as a consortium of several Japanese companies. And this is mainly used for inspection. And the middle two, 5.4, this is also used for pipe inspection and a smokestack inspection drone we have. And on the right-hand side, this is delivery drone. We call it air truck. This can fly 20 kilo with 5 kg payload. We are now implementing this drone in rural area in Japan. And all of you already know, we see the huge potential in India. The importance of economic security is increasing, and data security and economic security is the hot topic in the drone area. And not only Japan, we see that same trend in India and the US as well. And in India, it was touched upon in the previous slide. Now, it banned the importing the foreign made drone, and they are promoting the made in India drone under the scheme of making India, and also they are providing the incentive scheme called a PLI scheme. So now they are trying to develop the drone industry in India. And under this situation, SCSL can be a unique position in that market. The first, we have the technology to meet economic security. And the second one is we are B2B company, so we can provide enterprise support. Most drone manufacturers, their origin is consumer side, but we are focusing on the industrial side from the beginning, so we can provide the support. And also at the last point, we can provide application-specific drones, which can be tailored by application of customers. So that three features, we can be unique, and we see the huge potential in India market as a Japanese player. And we already established a joint venture in India. We have ACSL India, which is the joint venture company of the local partner company called AirArc. Out of SSL India, we have, as a SSL Japan, we have 49% of the capital, and the majority is owned by our partner. So SSL India is actually Indian company. And we are trying to transfer our technology from SSL Japan to SSL India. Now we are trying to assemble the drone in India as a made in India drone. And AirArc, our partner, is actively promoting our drones. And we are now in the phase of trying to get the sales certification of our drone. And not only this partner, we are getting the much support from the Japanese government as well. We have the support from NEDO and also JETRO, that kind of the Japanese agency. We are getting the support to expand our business in India. So let me highlight one project which was supported by NEDO India. We conducted market research as SSA India. So SSA India conducted market research, and our focus was one is benchmark of drones based on the public information, and the second one is customer survey, which is interesting. Actually, we highlighted the results on drone usage and needs. And lastly, we would like to show some use cases, demonstration for it in customer site. So first, I'd like to highlight the customer survey. What we did was highlighting the difference between Japanese drone and the Chinese drone. The Chinese one, which is now majority of the drone usage in the Indian market. So we'd like to understand what is the difference and where we can see the opportunity. So we conducted this survey to our customers and also stakeholders. So first, results. We asked what is the application and what is the key points for selection. And as I highlighted on the left-hand side, the application is mainly infrastructure inspection and disaster prevention and surveying. Of course, it might be a bit biased because we are asking our customers, but yeah, infrastructure inspection and disaster prevention survey, these are the majority of the application of drones, and which is not so different from Japan, and I think it's the kind of the one of major applications in the world. And the right-hand side is key points for the selection of drone. We categorized four. First one is drone hardware features, and the second one is applications, and the third one is specification, and the last one is service. And we can see the drone hardware features have several high scores, such as payload, flight time, and also the environmental resistance, like wind resistant. And also the application is key selection point for them as well. So easy to use of this GCS and also camera performance. And also if we look at the bottom of the chart, we can see the after purchasing support and the price, that kind of service part is also important. From here, I'd like to highlight the difference between Japanese and the Chinese drone. These are all impression based, so it is not based on the fact that these are also impression based, but it might be very interesting to see what is the difference. So respondents were satisfied with the Chinese-made drone in terms of the use and also the specification and also the price. On the other hand, they are not so satisfied with the service and also security. In a Japanese drone, which is the opposite impression, the Japanese drone, they have the good impression on high information security and also after sales service. You can see the left-hand side bar. The blue one is Japanese impression and the gray one is the Chinese impression. But as you can see on the right-hand side, the Japanese one has the impression of expensive. So we see the clear difference between China and the Japanese one. We highlighted the after sales part, what they expect to the distributor. On the left-hand side, you can see they expect the distributor to have the customer support after purchasing and also repair support. These are the key points for them as well. And if we look at the right-hand side, the impression of Japanese China drone, they are not satisfied with the current Chinese support. So we see the huge potential in after-sales support as a Japanese manufacturer. And we highlighted the price and the usability and the specification between China and the Japanese drone. User-friendly, good design, these are kind of the same. But if we look at the price inexpensive, the China China has a good impression, but as a Japanese drone, we have that kind of the expensive impression. And we need to focus what we can provide as a Japanese drone manufacturer. So these are overview of the customer survey. As I mentioned, there are clear difference between Chinese drone and the Japanese drone, and we see the potential as a Japanese drone manufacturer. We cannot compete with them directly, but we see the potential in after-sales support or tailoring by application. That kind of the direction we are targeting. And also in this project, we conducted demonstration in our customer site. These are two examples of our customer site demonstration. This drone is drone called PF2, our platform drone, which is size of 1 meter and which can be customizable. Which can adopt several cameras, and also they can also which can also bring some stuff. We conducted the monitoring on construction site, and also we conducted inspection at the power lines. So from this survey, we are developing our market entry strategy in India, and we are also developing the good fit drones based on their application and our customer needs in their market. And we are trying to make that drone in India market with our partners. Okay, thank you. This is our presentation, and it would be great if you can chat, if you can put the question if you have on chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kensuke Hayakawa, for the very informative, insightful presentation. It was very exciting to see the new technologies and the drones that you are manufacturing. And it was very interesting to note the customer feedback that you got through your survey, right? And it highlights the potential for the India-Japan collaboration on drones, specifically around manufacturing as well as the use cases around drones. Thank you so much once again for the presentation. For the next part of the webinar, I'll request for the participants to join in for a quick panel discussion on the booming potential for drone ecosystem in India. As part of the panel, we have today Mr. Dheeraj Pandey, who is the Assistant Director for SOCHAM, Mr. Chirag Sharma, the CEO of Drone Destination, Mr. Ashutosh Sharma, the CEO of iHub Foundation, Mr. Kinsuk Hayakawa, who's the CFO we just heard, and Mr. Amit Malhotra, the Director from KPMG. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining on this panel discussion. First of all, let me start with Mr. Ashutosh Sharma, the CEO of iHub Foundation for Cobotics, right? If you can share your thoughts in terms of what iHub is doing at this point of time and how it is essentially helping in create the necessary ecosystem, both for collaboration and research, and how it's essentially helping the startups in the drone area to emerge. Ashutosh?
Thanks, Jodhveer. Thanks a lot for organizing this webinar. So I would like to thank as well as congratulate the KPMG team as well as the NADO team to make this possible. The discussed topic is very relevant. I think drone as an ecosystem, we need to grow, and it is evolving very fast. We as the Technology Innovation Hub of IIT Delhi are doing a lot of activities in the area of research, development, and entrepreneurship development. And drone is something that we feel is one of those areas which is going to boom the fastest. So what I'll do is maybe I'll take a couple of minutes and run you through the slides as to what is the model that we are running at IHFC. And would also like to take another couple of minutes to talk about, how is that drone ecosystem is something that we are, trying to evolve in the country, and also as to what is that we would look forward to from partners like you or NADO, to make it possible. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, it's now.
Thank you. So we are IHFC, iHub Foundation for Cobotics. We have been set up by DST, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. This is under the NMICPS mission, which talks about 4 mandates, which is technology development, innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup ecosystem, human resource and skill development, and international collaboration. We are the Technology Innovation Hub of IIT Delhi, around 2.5 years old now. 4 mandates I already spoke about, and 4 verticals that we focus on. One is medical, one is agriculture, industry, and defense. So I think all these 4 verticals, we see applications of drones coming up. I'll talk about the engagement model that we have. So we are the hub at the center, and we interact with government, industry, as well as research academia to create a platform wherein we can see that research and development which is happening, say, as a part of the academia, can be taken to the industry or the government as per their requirement. And similarly, any requirement which comes from either industry or government can be fulfilled, or vice versa. We are an independent body set up under Section 8 rules and regulations of Government of India, and hence we can engage with any of these entities very, very seamlessly and without any bureaucratic procedures to make this possible. So when I talk about the activities or the focus areas, research and development, entrepreneurship and startup, upskilling and training, and international collaboration, without getting into too much detail, I would like to talk about what we are doing as a part of drones. So when we talk about the 7 grand projects that we have launched, there is a very key project which is on drone applications, and it has close to about 5 sub projects as a part of this, taking care of the application areas of drones in either of these verticals. Incidentally, we have also collaborated with the NSF for some of these projects which are jointly funded by NSF in US to work on a similar objective. And incidentally, 3 of these projects are in the area of drones. So which itself talks about that, kind of focus that we are getting on drones. And 3 of these projects that I talked about are part of 12 projects that we are jointly working with them. So it's like 25% of these projects. This is the model that we have. This is a spread. One of the startups that we have is BotLab Dynamics, and this is a success story I want to share with everyone. They have the capability of build to run 3,000 plus drones, and they can swarm in one place, and they are doing very well right now. In fact, they demonstrated this capability at the Rashtrapati Bhavan this year itself. Incidentally, the event on January 29th, which was scheduled, could not happen because of the rain, but the capability was demonstrated. And this startup also intends to make this number go up to 7,500 in the coming year. But what I wanted to discuss more was around the facility that we are building around this. So there is a drone technology park that we are setting up at our IIT Delhi Sonipat campus. And as a part of this park, we want to develop it as a planned and managed facility. And the reason we are building this park is because of this entire reason of drone being one of the most sought after fields for this innovation that we are looking up to. Now, as a part of this planned and managed facility will come up at our Sonipat campus, which is around 30 miles from the main campus. Reason we have selected that campus is that it does not fall under the red zone. In red zone, which is the IIT Delhi campus and entire Delhi, there are a lot of restrictions with respect to flying and testing. And that's the reason we selected Sonipat campus as our destination for this drone technology park. The focus is on research, innovation, and new product development. And this is an area wherein industry and government agencies would collaborate. One more slide which talks about the collaborative approach, and I would leave it open to you, for any questions on these slides. What we intend to do is not to set up a facility wherein we are investing and building this facility. The model that we are trying to follow is that there should be industry, government bodies, including agencies, as well as government departments, who need to come together and see that this facility is working from and for them. So I think this is what we intend to do. And while I'm talking about industry and government, we would also seek a similar kind of an interest and collaboration from some of the international agencies as well to make this possible. The idea is to make it a self-sustaining model and to make it a win-win situation for everyone who is contributing as a part of this drone technology park. So that's it from my end with respect to what we are intending to do here. A couple of points that I would like to add apart from this, wherein organizations like KPMG and NADO can play a very important role, is that, say for example, when we talk about Japan as a country, they are very strong with respect to hardware. And what we have seen here in the country is that hardware is something wherein we need some bit of a support or to maybe fast track our progress. So this comes as a natural partnership for us. So we would look forward to these kind of partnership wherein we can leverage or dovetail our strength with respect to artificial intelligence or data science to bundle with the strength of Japanese firms industry with respect to hardware to make this possible very quickly. And this can actually become a formidable partnership with respect to that. I was very happy to see Hayakawa-san's presentation and this collaboration, this JV that they have set up here in the country with AeroArc. And this is something as a model we need to explore further. An organization like KPMG, when I talk about, I think something that we would expect from them is trying to identify the right application areas and see that this market potential that was showcased in the slide grows at a much faster pace. So I think that the only thing that can make this run at a very fast pace is that the startups or the ecosystem which is getting built around drones, they have this access to the opportunities which are being created in the market. So I think that's a role, that's the bridge that can be created by organizations like KPMG, and it can be made possible. So that's it from my end, Jodhbir ji. And I would be very happy to take any questions in case, any of the audience might have.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for that very helpful and insightful presentation. Like you have very rightly said, the potential for growth is immense, right? And if you are able to create the right ecosystem, incubate the startups and provide them with the necessary support, like you have been doing in the initial phase, I'm sure that the sector will grow much more faster than the cases that we have typically looked into. Right. Thank you so much again for the presentation. I'll certainly get back to your question. I think there's some which are coming up in the chat as well. But before that, I'll just would want to move to the next panelist, Mr. Dheeraj Pandey, who is an assistant director with ASSOCHAM. Dheeraj, like we have seen as part of the presentation, there is a significant amount of dependency around imports for drones, right? I just wanted to get your views in terms of what strategies must be adopted in terms of reducing the dependency on imports and creating that right ecosystem and creating the right setup for manufacturing of components within the country. Dheeraj?
Hi, thank you, Jodhveer and KPMG team and Into team for providing me the opportunity. I am representing ASSOCHAM here, and as Jodhveer is asking about this right approach for how we can replace China's manufacturing parts from Indian manufacturing. So as we have discussed with our some of the drone companies, those few of the recommendations we recently concluded with, I think 4 recommendations we have done with. So as industry suggested, develop standardized guidelines and developing a monetizing testing sites. This is a very, very important thing that government should take care. And I think if you can push this in your study as well, so that ask from government, you can put it. And other is inculcate drone technology in curriculum of technology institutes and promote research. And next one is incentivize production of locally produced items used in drone lightweight motors and prepare roadmap to manufacturing high value items. So these are the 3 suggestions we received from the industry. And currently drone manufacturing, as you said, drone manufacturing is parts particularly we are importing from China. We are highly dependent on China. So these 3, apart from that, government should focus and incentivize R&D more and more, and we should invite more private companies participation, which is imperative to make this sector overall robust. Because unless we are not manufacturing from top to bottom every parts of drone and till highest grade of OEMs and collaborations, till then we are not sufficiently manage this. We are not sufficiently capitalize this opportunity to making India one of the manufacturing hub in the drone segment. So these are the 3 recommendations from our end. And presently, drone segment have few issues like we don't have any standard for data sharing and collaborations are not well defined. So this is one of the key issues which we received from our members, and difficult to import some of the part like batteries. So we should think on how we can rationalize, how we can reduce the process. And third is we have very shortage of certified drone pilots. This is the third current drone system is facing this problem. And fourth one is we are actually undercutting prices because because of L1 tenders we used to deploy to take drones in the government ministries and everywhere in the procurement process, which is leading to the poor quality of drones. So these are the 4 issues the current system is facing, and we have these 4 submissions from our end, which through which we can robust the drone manufacturing in India. Thanks. Over to you, Jodhveer.
Thank you so much, Dheeraj, for those very important and useful insights in terms of what really needs to be done as part of action points. As our next panelist, I would like to invite Mr. Chirag Sharma, who is the CEO of Drone Destination. Chirag is the founder and CEO of Hoverfly Technologies, a DGC-approved drone manufacturing company, as well as Drone Destination, an authorized drone training and service company. And this, I think, ties into what Dheeraj just said around 2 points of two of his suggestions. One was introducing drones as part of curriculum in the education institutions, as well as there being a scarcity of drone pilots as we go ahead, right? And I do understand there's a lot of work that you have done, Chirag, as part of your organization on both the elements. So, first of all, can you just give a brief in terms of what exactly Drone Destination is doing at this point of time, and how do we address this gap which we foresee in terms of ensuring that there is skilled workforce available for drones? Chirag?
Thank you, Jodhbiji, and thank you. I would like to thank Nero and KPMG for inviting us over to, address this forum. And, everything that you've brought and all the stakeholders who've come in before have brought in some very consistent, challenges and, opportunities within the Indian drone ecosystem. So, coming back to Drone Destination as a company, incidentally, so we run two companies. One is Hubble Fly, which was one of the first few DGC authorized manufacturing companies. And we also run Drone Destination, like you mentioned, which currently runs the largest network of DGC authorized training institutions. We're present in about 10 locations in the country, and we also are into drone services. So essentially, we're probably uniquely placed as a group which has seen the whole lens when it comes to R&D, manufacturing, and we're still learning and training and services. So the points that have been brought about, in terms of lack of availability of skilled manpower, within the ecosystem, that is, absolutely spot on. What we are also seeing, because we constantly are looking out for people, even when we're hiring within our company, and people are hard to come by. You spend months and still you don't find that experienced manpower today. So it is a real problem, but I think it's a problem of another 12 to 18 months. As the ecosystem is evolving, as more jobs are coming up, more opportunities are coming up, we will get that experience only from, getting hands dirty on ground. So theoretical, while there are aeronautical engineers, BTech guys, mechanical engineers that we keep hiring, for various job roles, but eventually until they see the actual, they have the on ground field experience of, be it at, at the manufacturing or maintenance, so, after sales aspect, or during the pilot skill training, or we talk about, actual service operations. Since the industry is now slowly built and the adoption is just increasing many folds, we will have a lot of experienced manpower available to us within the next 18 months or so. But agreed, at this moment, when we look at the whole ecosystem, manufacturing, training, services, there is a lack of that skilling labor force. But we think that it's only about 18 to 24 months before we actually get, right manpower available across the ecosystem. We on our end are looking at creating a talent pool, not just on the piloting side, but since we do, end-to-end services. So we are, in fact, when we hire these locations eventually become drone hubs, and these hubs are supposed to cater to all service related requirements. So we hire the pilots, we depute them on different applications. So, let's say one location has more agricultural spray requirements. So our drones with, specialized training on agriculture or survey gets undertaken by these pilots so that they can perform specialized roles, because one would be a generic skill set, and then the other one would be an application based skill set that would be required. But as an industry, few things that I would probably like to also share, the challenges that we're facing today on the manufacturing front. Even though we have a very good, robust policy in place, unfortunately, there is, lack of clarity across stakeholders. So, when I'm, let's say, assembling or manufacturing drones at the moment, there are issues at the DGFT end. Every time we import certain parts, even though we have all the authorizations, we have shipments that get stuck for a long time, which leads to an inconsistent timeline in terms of supply chain. So that's a gap that has to be addressed at all stakeholders. So I would, definitely request KPMG also, when we're building this awareness campaign, this information should be, basically dissipated across all relevant stakeholders of the industry. Then, this whole Ukraine-Russia war really pushed every country to indigenize on the drone technology, right? And what ended up happening is that ended up squeezing on the whole notion of chip manufacturing. So, we keep hearing about shortage of chips, and that somehow does have an effect on the drone ecosystem as well. So we'll have to be very careful in terms of how the supply chain gets managed. On the regulatory front, there is beyond visual line of sight policies awaited from Ministry of Civil Aviation. You mentioned about the Drone Act also coming into play, but the real potential of drones will only come in when BVLOS operations, beyond visual line of sight operations, comes actively comes into play. So guidelines around UTM, unmanned traffic management, BVLOS policy, that's also going to propel the industry in a big way. At the technology front, we're looking at even IP. So Japan being a world-class, product country, they've developed, some of the most amazing products for the world. So definitely we would expect some kind of design thinking and, product development kind of skill set to come, because while Japan has the technical know-how, I think India being a country uniquely, placed as one of the youngest countries for skilled manpower available, that intersection will play a huge role in terms of creating a very, robust, skilled manpower for the world, which will enable this ecosystem. And data management, Rahul had mentioned earlier on, we personally feel that, face the same issues where we are actively engaged in the Swamitva scheme, where we are collecting data. So we have mapped Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka. And like he mentioned, we get tons of data. This is terabytes of data, which we hold. And when we give it out to the right stakeholders, who are supposed to accept our data, they don't have the bandwidth. Neither do they have the infrastructure, nor the, data storage capacity. So we are facing challenges in terms of even getting the data accepted. So the data doesn't get accepted, we don't get monetized for the work that we have done. So, there are investment issues, there are, working capital issues we end up facing across the ecosystem. So that's something, again, that the data centers will have to come up at a much rapid pace. But overall, I think we're very excited, because with the advent of 5G coming in, this rollout will really push beyond visual line of sight operations. Once the policy comes in, more type certified drones are there in the market. This demand will eventually push the supply to ramp up, which will bring investments into the sector. Dheeraj mentioned about private sector participation. I fully am in sync with that plan. Corporates need to come in, and we really need to put more money in the ecosystem, both at the R&D side, at the service side, and eventually this whole ecosystem will mature. So being a player who has looked at all three lenses, we're able to share some on-ground experiences with with you, and then happy to answer any questions with that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chirag, for sharing those insights across the value chain. I think you have covered multiple elements across the value chain, and that's something which is very critical from a drone perspective, given that there is efforts which are going across multiple elements, right? And you have mentioned around services and the potential use cases that you are seeing in agriculture as well as other sectors. And data management certainly is a big challenge. That is something which came up in the earlier presentation as well. In terms of use cases, I would now like to bring in Ramit, who had given the initial part of the presentation, to talk us through probably one of the use cases in the power sector of how drones are helping or are being adopted in the power sector, and what essentially are the key applications that we see around the electricity sector, the usage of drones. Ramit?
Thank you, Jyoti, for the question. In electricity sector across the globe, there are widespread applications of drone for various activities related to monitoring and generating data for analytics and maintenance activities. I would touch upon the areas where we are seeing a lot of traction for drone applications in the electricity sector. One of the major important area is maintenance of transmission and distribution lines. In terms of transmission tower, which goes up to a height of 50 meters, it's sometimes very difficult to operate and maintain it using the manpower. And while the new technologies and drone-based applications are widely used across the transmission sector by the state as well as central transmission unit. And in the electricity distribution sector also, what we have seen is that there in cities, while we have small feeders which are of small length, but in rural areas, distribution line goes up to 18 kilometers, even 25 kilometers. And with the mandate of providing 24/7 electricity for all, electricity utilities are now looking for solutions on how they can ensure 24/7 power supply, especially in the rural areas where the electricity lines are so long. And there are a lot of interest from the utilities which we have seen on drone application of drones for monitoring and maintenance of these distribution lines. Many pilots are going on in Maharashtra, in Telangana, and Tamil Nadu, and many other parts of the country. Which utilities are evaluating the use case and the commercial business case as of using drone for the maintenance of distribution lines. Other key important area is basically for monitoring and maintenance of the generating system we have, especially the large solar plant and the large wind plant. When I talk about wind plant, we are talking about wind plant with a hub height of 50 to 100 meters, which are sometimes very difficult to monitor, manually. There are a lot of applications of drone. Many wind players are using it, and glad to inform that now India has already come up with its first offshore wind tender. And going forward, there are targets of around 4 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity, both in Gujarat as well as in Tamil Nadu, where we see a good traction of drone-based monitoring of these offshore wind power plants.
Thank you so much, Ramit, for sharing those thoughts around the potential use cases around drones. I would now like to invite Haikawa-san as part of the panel again. And Haikawa-san, you had spoken in terms of the strong collaboration which is there in terms of your joint venture with an Indian entity, right? Can you just take us through in terms of what was your journey around in terms of getting that collaboration in place, and what are the key learnings which potentially could be there for Indian companies as well as Japanese companies looking to partner together as part of the drone ecosystem?
Okay, so as I mentioned, we are collaborating with the Indian drone player, AirArc. First, we met coincidentally. Maybe our CEO and their CEO just met in another event or something, and we just talked and introduced each other, and we saw the huge potential. Actually, we as a ACSO, we didn't have much information on Indian market at that point, but we saw the huge potential there. And a key part of our cooperation is getting local information by local players, because from Japan side, it's very hard to take the information because everything is moving dynamically and very rapidly. So getting that information and with that information, deciding the direction is very important. And we collaborate with AirArc, and AirArc is collecting that kind of the information and what kind of the policy will be implemented and what that implementation means for us. That kind of the implication was important for us. And it was clear for us to decide the role in value chain, because we are manufacturing company and they are service company. So that was simple actually. But given that the roles and we could get that information, and we try to get the certification for import from India side. I think it didn't take so long to get import as a research perspectives. We are now in the process of the sales certification of the getting the process of that. I think that was the good collaboration, and it was the key part for us to first setting the role of each partner, and based on the advantage we have from our side, we have the advantage in technology, and then from their side, they have the knowledge and intelligence, the market side, and we closely communicated. We actually did a weekly call between management, and that helps us to enter the Indian market at the first phase.
Thank you so much, Akawa-san, for sharing the elements of your journey. I think it will be very helpful for companies both on the Indian side as well as Japan side to learn from your journey and find ways to collaborate. And it was very interesting to note that the start of the journey essentially happened through one of those events, right? So these kind of webinars are something which is very useful for a sector which is just emerging. This was a very insightful set of thoughts, and I would really want to thank the panelists. I'm very cognizant of the time. I would have loved to continue, but I think we are just close to the finishing time. So before we close, what I request is that each of the panelists, if they can share one parting thought from their side in
I
terms
think we
of.
will ask.
So if they can share one parting thought from their side in terms of how do they see the ecosystem growing over the decade, and or what potential are the ways in terms of collaboration around India and Japan. So one parting thought from each of the panelists. May I start with Mr. Ashutosh Sharma?
Thank you, Jodhbirji. See, I already spoke about this, I think, during my earlier discussion, that two things that are very critical, for this ecosystem to grow at a very, very fast pace. I think a collaboration with Japan, which comes as a very natural one, because hardware is something which comes natural to Japan as a strength, and for us, AI and data is something which is the key. So if we can come together, I think it can be a formidable force, and that's one of the things I see as a takeaway from this webinar series that you have initiated. The second point with respect to ecosystem in India itself, I think there will be two key players or two key markets that will come up for drones. One is government, which includes defense as well, and second is how we as a consumer take drones or accept drones as one of the ways of fulfilling our requirements, whether it is logistics or whether it is agriculture. So I think we would need to see them both separately, and also see as to how we can play an important role in growing both these markets. As far as government is concerned, they're pretty serious about this right now. A lot of investment happening. We are an example of that. A lot of investment which is made through us into the startups and R&D, which includes drones as well. And also the market wherein we see that some of the organizations which are trying to see how drones can help them, because this as a technology is not very well known to everyone. People are still not very sure as to how is that they are going to utilize drones for making this possible. So I think this information, this knowledge proliferation, and enabling all these organizations who can actually get benefited with this new technology coming up, I think is something that we'll have to see while creating this ecosystem in the country. So that's all from my end. You're on mute, Jodhbirji, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sometimes you miss, you never know. Thank you so much for sharing those parting thoughts, Ashutosh. And now I may request Dheeraj from SHM, any parting thought? I know you had given a list of suggestions from the industry, but if there's any additional parting thought that you may have. I think we may have lost Dheeraj. Moving on to Mr. Chirag.
Yeah, thank you, Jodhbirji. So like I had mentioned earlier, we would, Japan definitely, with the whole anti-China sentiment in general in our country, and then, India and Japan having very friendly relations overall on many aspects. So the whole idea of knowledge transfer, knowledge sharing, co-developing products within our country, Japan being a world-class, manufacturing country, product country, so as to say, and they've been doing it for so many years. And India has been largely on the service front. So, when the amalgamation of product and service comes into play, I think we would be able to build something very qualitative. We just recently heard Foxconn trying to put a $700 million plant in India, right, to develop products for the world. So I definitely feel that that whole idea of design thinking, leveraging on the user experience, because we are all talking about drones, but at the end of the day, we still have to, really look at, and that came out in the conversation of Hayakawa san also, when he mentioned that Chinese drones were very user friendly. So the Indian drone ecosystem also has to evolve towards user friendliness. And we personally feel that, bringing, the Japanese think tank on table and, leveraging their capabilities and integrating that with our manufacturing capabilities will end up creating some world-class products for the world. And I think that's one of the definite, arenas of partnership that we definitely look forward to having. And of course, there are manufacturing best practices. We've all heard of Kaizen being implemented, back in the day, which originated in Japan. So obviously, really just streamlining the whole component level or full integration assembly process from, and leveraging those ideas from Japan and bringing that to India and working on some collaborative models, just like ACL and Aero Arc have done. We are very keen on inviting such partners to also help. And, we can provide the young skilled manpower, and create this a very viable kind of an offering together. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chirag, on that. Ramit, any final parting thoughts from your side?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Jodhveer. There is no doubt that Indian drone ecosystem is expected to grow exponentially. Government intentions are also very clear in this regard. Government has shown through PLI that they want more domestic manufacturing. Keeping this in view, I see three key areas for Indo-Japan cooperation in the drone ecosystem space. One is definitely being the R&D, joint R&D collaboration, wherein Indian as well as Japanese researchers cooperate and join hands together to explore new application areas and R&D for technology and enhanced efficiency for the system. The second one is upskilling and reskilling of the workforce for maintenance and manufacturing of drone ecosystem. We're definitely going to see establishment of center of excellence and new collaborations between Indian as well as Japanese research organization. And the third key area of cooperation is in the manufacturing, as every other panelist has mentioned. There is a huge opportunity for domestic manufacturing, and there is a need for tech transfer, knowledge transfer, and joint collaboration to promote domestic manufacturing of drones.
Thank you so much, Ramit, for sharing those parting thoughts. Hayakawa-san, I know you have spoken in detail, but any parting thoughts from your side?
Yeah. Okay. Quick comment. So it was great to see the all the potential in Indian market, and everyone convinced that we see the huge potential there. I think it's important to grow this ecosystem bigger. I think the involving the not only private area, also the government in both India and Japan, and also it's important to have the same direction competing because we see the potential, but still we have the many challenges, lack of capability in several areas. So I thought it's very important to involve and invite many players in this ecosystem and make this one bigger in the future.
Thank you so much, Hayakawa-san, and thank you once more to all the panelists for sharing their very valuable insights, which will help the attendees in terms of understanding both the drone ecosystem and how potentially we can collaborate between India and Japan for growing the sector. There was also an additional question which was asked during the chat. I think that has been answered during the conversation. It was around the type certification of drones. That is something which was, I think, referred to during the initial part of the slide presentation, in which the classification of 4 types of drones as per the drone rules is available. If there is any further information which is required, I will be certainly, I would request the attendees, the panelists also share onto it, right? Now, coming to the next part, I would now want to invite Mr. Dheeraj Bhardwaj, the representative of India in NATO, for sharing his thoughts and giving a vote of thanks and closing remarks. Dheeraj, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm Dheeraj Bharadwaj from NATO India. First and foremost, I would like to thank all the speakers and the panelists, Mr. Kensuke Hayakawa-san from ACSL India, Mr. Amit Malhotra, Alekhya Datta-san, Rahul Singh from KPMG India, Mr. Dheeraj Pandey from ASSOCHAM, Mr. Chirag Sharma, CEO Drone Destination, and Mr. Ashutosh Sharma from iHub Foundation for Cobotics, IIT Delhi. And also to you, sir, our moderator, Mr. Jodhbir Sachdeva, Director Aviation and Transport, KPMG India. I think the webinar has been very effective in meeting its purpose, which was to give an overview of the Indian drone industry, market opportunity, and the policy scenario. I believe all the discussed points will make the audience aware of underlying market opportunities associated with the Indian drone industry and the areas of collaboration. The webinar provided significant insight also in the industry growth and will also enhance participation from all the relevant stakeholders, which we'll see very shortly. I also thank all the attendees for joining us and putting up questions to our panel, and also our technical support team led by Mr. Pratik Parashar from Country Events. Thank you once again on behalf of KPMG and NIDO. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Jodhbir sir, Pratik here from the tech team. I'm so sorry I'm intervening. Just a small point. We would request everyone to kindly put on their videos for a quick photograph session before we end this.
Pratik, is it done?
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for putting on your videos. Thank you.
Thank you so much to first of all to NIDO for helping us organize this very insightful and useful webinar. Thank you so much to the speakers and the panelists for sharing their very insightful thoughts around the sector. And thank you so much to the attendees. I hope this would have been very useful in terms of getting an understanding of the sector and finding areas of collaboration between India and ecosystem. So this brings us to a close to the webinar. Have a nice day and have a great week ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. 早川さん、ありがとうございました。
Thank you.
Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Vivek, are you there? Vivek? Vivek, please download the complete recording and the chats and the participants attendance list. You may close the meeting now. Thank you.